First of all, let me tell y'all right now, Bridget Jones is my mother. Okay? If there is one white woman I'ma go up for, it's Bridget. Bridget Jones' Diary has been my comfort movie for many, many years. Like, I'm talking 15 years, 20 years, okay? In fact, let me tell y'all something. I was in law school when Bridget's Baby came out, and listen, I was but a mere child when Bridget Jones' Diary and Edge of Reason dropped, so I didn't see those in theaters. So when Bridget's Baby came out, when I tell you, I dragged my best friend to a movie theater in Long Island to watch it the day of, okay? I remember the windshield on my Beetle being dead foggy on that highway, but I knew the Lord was not gonna kill me before I get to see my girl Bridget. I say all that to say I with Bridget heavy. So believe me when I say, hear me good when I say this. We obviously all know she shouldn't have been with Daniel Cleaver. But here's my hot take. She shouldn't have been with Mark Darcy either. Despite the fact that he once told her he likes her just the way she is, that was never the case in application. He always treated Bridget like she was in some way beneath him or an embarrassment, and Bridget was never comfortable around that man. In fact, I will go a step further and argue that the only reason Mark Darcy even took an interest in Bridget was because Daniel Cleaver had her, and he was still competing with him. But I'm not done yet. The only reason Bridget chose him because he didn't want her originally and made her feel beneath him. So him choosing her was validating to Bridget, who had low self-esteem and wanted to be chosen. That is no shade to my good sis. Y'all know that's no shade, but that is what it is. In many ways, Mark Darcy was to Bridget what Big was to Carrie in Sex and the City. I will get back to that point later. For now, let's revisit the facts, shall we? At the very outset of the movie, Bridget's mom tries to set her up with Mark Darcy, and Mark took one look at Bridget and listened to her talk for 1 minute and promptly told his mother, quote, "Don't try to set him up with some verbally incontinent middle-aged spinster who dresses like her mom, smokes like a chimney, and drinks like a fish." I want to remind y'all, it's actually that comment from Mark Darcy that wounds Bridget and sends her into a depression spiral right out the gate that eventually ends with her starting her diary. And that's how the movie begins. Mark Darcy makes her feel so low in that moment that she goes home, starts smoking like a chimney and drinking like a fish for real, watching Fatal Attraction and singing all by myself at the top of her lungs. So we are off to a terrible start for Mark Darcy. The next time Mark runs into Bridget at one of her publishing events, Mark doesn't apologize for what he knows Bridget heard him say about her the last time she saw him. No, he doesn't even try to be polite. He takes this opportunity to yet again make Bridget feel small. Despite the fact that he was a dickhead to Bridget and everything in her wanted to be rude to him when she introduces him to Perpetua, she doesn't. She calls the man a top barrister. And do you know what Mark does? When the skinny bitch lawyer he's gonna have on his arm for the rest of the movie walks up and asks to be introduced, he calls Natasha a top barrister who specializes in family law, but then spins around and goes, "Bridget works in publishing and used to play naked in my paddling pool." And after he says it, and Bridget obviously looks stunned at this unprovoked disrespect, he sips his wine as if to be like, "Checkmate, bitch." But I'm like, checkmate, why? She hasn't done nothing to you. In fact, it was you who was rude when she last saw you. So why are you being rude again? When Natasha follows up with "how odd" of Bridget, Mark doesn't correct her or say, "Oh, I was just playing," or explains how he knows Bridget from growing up as a child, because that was the intended impact of Mark Darcy's comments, to make Bridget seem odd and insecure in front of Natasha. The man is a It's only when he sees Daniel Cleaver talking to Bridget before leaving with her that we see Mark Darcy even look at Bridget with any interest, because he saw that Daniel Cleaver was interested in her. Because the last time Mark Darcy saw Daniel Cleaver take any interest in a woman, it was Darcy's wife, because Daniel Cleaver is Mr. Steal Your Girl. That's Mr. Bitches right there. And listen, Daniel Cleaver is a cheating piece of shit, a handsome, charismatic cheating piece of shit, but a piece of shit nonetheless. This we know. But for what it's worth, unlike Mark Darcy, Daniel Cleaver did at least take romantic interest in Bridget all on his own, for no other reason than he was trying to Bridget. He wasn't in a competition for her with Mark Darcy. He wasn't even aware she knew Mark Darcy at the time he started pursuing her. And if we really keep it a buck, Daniel Cleaver did not perceive Mark Darcy as any competition. He didn't think Mark Darcy was in any way in his league.
I brought Natasha. Get a bit of work done, thought I might make it a not entirely wasted weekend.
How interesting. What a gripping life you do lead.
All right, Cleaver, outside.
I'm sorry? Outside? Should I bring my dueling pistols or my sword?
So when we next see Mark Darcy, he is still with his bitch ass Natasha, which is the kind of woman he actually sees for himself. But now, Bridget is with Daniel Cleaver, and they're openly having a ball. Because again, another hot take that's backed up with tons of receipts is that Bridget is way, way happier and more herself when she's with Daniel Cleaver than when she was with Mark Darcy. Think about it. When they first hook up and he discovers her granny panties, he makes her feel comfortable and free. She's beaming and laughing her ass off the entire time she's involved with Daniel. She openly talks to him about her feelings. She quite literally feels like she can let her hair down and be free when they're going on their vacation. And then she and him are literally laughing their asses off, splashing in the water, having lighthearted fun like a couple of teenagers, while serious, miserable, hating ass Natasha and Mark Darcy look on. And again, I maintain that the only reason Mark Darcy is suddenly looking at the same Bridget he literally cussed his mama out for trying to hook him up with is because she's with Daniel Cleaver now. Then when Mark Darcy sees her at the Tarts and Vickers party and Bridget's already feeling insecure because Daniel Cleaver's not there, when her aunt says to her that she hopes Daniel Cleaver is good enough for her Bridget, Mark Darcy cuts in that he absolutely isn't. But again, this is not about liking Bridget, it's about disliking Daniel Cleaver. And Bridget just tells him about his ass and walks off. But the next time Bridget sees Mark Darcy, she and Daniel Cleaver have already broken up because again, he's a cheating trifling. We'll save his dragging for another video. This time, Bridget sees Mark Darcy at a friend's dinner party, which by the way, isn't it funny how Mark Darcy is always looking down on Bridget when they obviously run in the exact same circles? You grew up next door to her, your parents are besties, her ex-boyfriend and boss is your former best man at your wedding, and y'all have such overlapping social networks that y'all attend the same holiday parties, the same work functions, the same weddings, and intimate house dinners. So the audacity of this man and Natasha to always be turning up their nose at Bridget. But anyway, Bridget sees Mark Darcy at a friend's dinner party, where he is yet again accompanied by Natasha, who he is always proudly displaying on his arm. But he creeps off down the stairs to low-key slander Bridget every which way from Sunday before telling her he likes her just the way she is.
I don't think you're an idiot at all. I mean, there are elements of the ridiculous about you. And you really are an appallingly bad public speaker. And you tend to let whatever's in your head come out of your mouth without much consideration of the consequences. But the thing is, what I'm trying to say very inarticulately is, perhaps despite appearances, I like you very much.
Apart from the smoking and the drinking and the vulgar mother and the verbal diarrhea.
No, I like you very much, just as you are.
Do you? This scene is so important, I have to break it down. First of all, Mark Darcy has seen Bridget on 4 occasions before this point, and he was deliberately rude each and every time, and he never apologized. Now that she was Daniel Cleaver's bitch, he got apologies to offer the first time he see her without him. Like seriously, imagine it you that there are elements of the ridiculous about you. Sit with that for a second.
I mean, there are elements of the ridiculous about you.
Elements of the ridiculous about you. Then say, your mother is interesting, your ass at your job, and you don't know what the you be talking about. He said, quote, perhaps despite appearances, I like you very much. Think about that. He has to say that because every part of how he actually treats her gives that I don't like this bitch. Ask yourselves, what does it matter whether someone says they like you if every part of how they treat you and their energy towards you and how they show up gives that they don't with you? Love is not just a word or a feeling. It's actions, it's care, it's a vibe. Not only does Mark Darcy not like Bridget, the more important part is that Bridget don't like Mark Darcy either.
That's right, I said it.
Let's talk about it, okay? Bridget could not stand that man. Not once did she feel anything for him or long for him or like him at all until he told her that he liked her just the way she is.
Just as you are. Not thinner, not cleverer, not with slightly bigger breasts and slightly smaller nose.
Well, fuck me.
But this is someone you hate, right?
Yes, I hate him.
And again, I love my girl Bridget down. So I don't say this as a drag. I say this with a heavy heart because it's the truth. My girl Bridget was looking for a man's validation and love to define her. She had low self-esteem. It was the 2000s where a bitch could be thin and 130 pounds and be talked to like the picture of obesity. And it was constantly being peddled by everyone around her that she was nothing without a husband and all the usual bullshit. So she started the movie unsatisfied with not having a man. And that dissatisfaction promptly turned to depression when the man her mom tried to set her up with dragged her for filth. Then she only managed to pick herself up when Daniel Cleaver, the man she actually liked, took an interest in her, and she thought that was gonna work out. So once it didn't, my girl was depressed again. And now she's at a friend's dinner party, alone, getting dragged by everyone for not having a man.
Hey, Brid, how's your love life?
Oh.
Still going out with that publishing chappie?
No.
You really ought to hurry up and get sprogged up, you know, old girl. Times are running out. Tick-tock.
So when this man who started her original depression spiral by making her feel like she'd be alone for forever and end up like Glenn Close in Fatal Attraction comes downstairs to tell her, on second thought, I actually do like you, my girl eats that shit up. And not just that, but there's a specific element of the fact that Daniel Cleaver left her for a rail-thin brunette, and now Mark Darcy was walking downstairs to leave his rail-thin brunette for her. That's the real alert there for Bridget if we keep it real. Being chosen and beating out these skinny brunette bitches who think they better than her.
I thought you said she was thin. Bizarre what some men find attractive.
My girl literally talks herself into liking Mark Darcy once she realizes it's an option available to her. And listen, even though she and Mark Darcy end up together at the end of the movie, in Edge of Reason, he continues to make her feel judged and uncomfortable. And in the third movie, we find out Bridget and Mark Darcy are not together because he left her and went on to marry yet another woman, presumably in keeping with his type, i.e. not Bridget. They only even end up together at the end of that movie because Bridget happened to get pregnant, and instead of the baby being the much more pleasant Patrick Dempsey's, they made it Mark Darcy. Mark Darcy constantly did Bridget exactly how Mr. Big did Carrie. Big never liked Carrie, and he spent years and years and years stringing her along and playing games with her, but he was quick to commit and publicly show off a particular kind of woman. Look at Big's ex-wives, and look at Carrie. Remember how Big was with Carrie for 2 years and wouldn't let her keep a toothbrush in his place and then up and married Natasha 2 seconds after breaking up with Carrie? Because that was the kind of bitch that Big could see himself with, not Carrie. Ironically enough, Mark Darcy's preferred bitch's name was also Natasha. And he not only kept her on his arm at every event throughout the entire movie, he was engaged to her.
And I don't think I mind, since we're amongst friends, if I say that someday this remarkably clever girl is going to be something else in law as well.
Begged him not to say anything.
So I ask you now to charge your glasses once again to Mark and his Natasha. To Mark and his
Natasha. He was fully about to marry Natasha and take that bitch with him to New York City to the firm. But he around the place telling Bridget he likes her just the way she is and showing up to her house to make soup and get jealous and beat up Daniel Cleaver when he shows up, like he wasn't about to get married and move to a new country with this bitch. Like, we just glide past that shit as an audience because we don't with Natasha, but hey, I got licks for everyone. Because listen, Daniel Cleaver is a cheating piece of shit, but by golly damn, so is Mark Darcy. In fact, they are the exact same kind of cheating piece of shit. Oh yes, I said it. Let's think about it. Bridget and Daniel Cleaver break up after she discovers that he's with the brunette, skinny young gal from the New York office who he originally misled Bridget into believing he just met, before it's eventually revealed to Bridget and us that he's been with that gal, and that relationship actually predates his relationship with Bridget. He's just now choosing to marry that gal and break it off with Bridget because that gal was his preference. That is no different than Mark Darcy being obviously in a committed public relationship with Natasha for the entirety of the movie, literally on the marriage track, but eyeing Bridget on the low and trying to pursue a relationship with her on the quiet to spite Daniel Cleaver. But Natasha is his preference. And if we keep on our Sex and the City example, it's hard to tell when you first watch Sex and the City because it's all told from Carrie's delusional point of view. But after you watch it a million times like I have, you eventually realize that Big was obviously seeing other women the entire time he was with Carrie, and Natasha was likely one of those women. So when he and Carrie ended, he chose his preferred type.
These white men are dangerous.
I say all this to say, none of these was shit. And Mark Darcy was not an exception. That does not mean that I have not watched Bridget Jones' Diary 10 million times and rooted for Mark Darcy to beat Daniel Cleaver's ass and reunite with Bridget every time. Cause I have. Because I do, and I always will. And I will continue to support Bridget in all her emotionally unhealthy choices, especially now that a new movie is coming out. But I'm not blind to the bullshit, Bridget. I'm not blind. Her relationship with Mark Darcy was boring, stifling, and uncomfortable. Daniel Cleaver does not have an honest, monogamous bone in his body, and my girl Bridget would have really benefited from choosing a therapist over all them life coach books. And maybe then she would have been ready for Patrick Dempsey when he came along. My girl deserved better. But I'ma stick beside her. Y'all should subscribe to the Patreon. I put, for the people who want to hear me doing all my cursing, we put the uncensored versions of every recap on the Patreon. So do that.